Okay, everybody, I am recording this video for some private lesson students I have, as well as some people who may be taking my drop-in classes through Samadhi, Minneapolis. Today I'm going to demonstrate several different ways of doing Chaturanga with modifications, as well as a full version of Chaturanga. And this is just intended for you to be able to have options when we are doing the sun salutations and whenever we're routing through a Chaturanga throughout the practice. So sometimes people think they have to do the full Chaturanga, so high to low plank to an upward dog, back to downward facing dog, when in fact there are many modifications, many variations, and you can sometimes start to customize them and splice them in a way that is most appropriate and customized to you. So I'm just going to demonstrate several variations, maybe 5 to 7 variations, and just know that even within all these variations, you can still choose different portions of it and add from a different variation. So if you are one of my students, we go through all of these at different courses through or different times throughout your lessons, and we get more into the exact alignment cues and how these are supposed to work in your body individually. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the whole alignment cues of these movements and of these Chaturangas. If you do find this video and you have questions about specific cues, feel free to reach out to me and we can go over that together. But this is just to run through the different variations for my private lesson students to help them work on outside of our lessons. So to begin, in Chaturanga, generally, again, we come from high to low plank to upward facing dog to down dog at many points throughout practice. And if you're just starting out, one variation I like to do is where you come down all the way to your belly. So generally with my beginner students and those who might have injuries or some sort of condition they're working on, I cue coming all the way down to the belly from the knees. So it looks something like this. You'll shift forward slightly and then start to roll down thighs, hips, belly, ribs. Your forehead comes to the mat. Your fingertips are in line with the armpits. The elbows are tracking backwards. We're pressing into the tops of the feet and both frontal hip bones. Using a little bit of strength of the hands, but mostly the strength of the back body, we're going to inhale for a baby cobra. You could also take a high cobra here. And then we're going to exhale, lower the forehead, route through tabletop, tuck the toes under, downward facing dog. Let's hold here and breathe. And we'll do that one more time to revisit. Really make sure we're getting it. So same variation. Untuck the toes, roll down, thighs, hips, belly, ribs, forehead to the mat. Inhale, baby cobra or high cobra. Exhale, lower the forehead, activate that core, route through tabletop, downward facing dog. So that is one variation. Another variation would be simply from down dog, drop down to the knees, take a cat-cow. So this would be for people who do have injuries or some sort of condition where maybe coming down to the ground and pushing back up is just too hard on the body. So you can completely take out that whole portion of going down to the ground and doing a big back bend, by simply placing 1 or 2 cat-cows in replacement of the chaturanga. So that would look like this. Inhale, the belly will drop, the gaze comes up, and exhale, round through the spine. And again, inhale, belly drops, the gaze comes up, chin comes up. Exhale, we round through the spine, gaze towards the navel. Finding a neutral spine, walk those hands a little bit in front of the shoulders, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. So that's just a really nice variation of the chaturanga. It's not really chaturanga, but you can replace a chaturanga with that. I do it all the time when I just need a break from all of the ups and downs. So another version similar to that would be you drop down to the knees. Inhale, drop the belly, the gaze comes up, untuck the toes, and then exhale, you'll sink down to a child's pose. Inhale, come back up, drop the belly, the gaze will come up. Exhale, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. We'll do another one of those. Inhale, drop to the knees, drop the belly, the gaze comes up. Exhale, untuck the toes, round through the back, sink down to the heels for a child's pose. Hold here for a couple breaths. So there you have a few different variations. Those are the more gentle variations of and options for your chaturanga. And here I have another option. So you can replace chaturanga with a yogi push-up. And this will help condition the upper body strength as well as the core strength. So again, we're kind of taking out the whole back bend portion of the chaturanga and we're just replacing it. You could do 1 or even 2 yogi push-ups while the other class, or maybe you're just working on your own personal practice, are moving through the sun salutations. So that would look like something like this. Now you can do this with the ankles crossed, floating the legs. You could also leave the tops of the feet to the ground. I'll demo both. So to begin, we'll start with the crossed ankle variation. You're going to start to take the sternum in a linear direction. So almost like the sternum's traveling through an escalator and the elbows are going to track back. So strong core, strong upper body. We lower down partway, elbows next to the ribs, and push back up. You could do a couple of those instead of a chaturanga. Lower the feet down. Let's try the variation with the feet down. Same idea with the sternum and the upper body. We just slowly start to lower down and come back up. And again, lower and up. Let's go ahead and take a little break with the wrists, circle them out, reverse the direction, and shake the arms off. So if you're moving through all of these along with me, your wrists might need a little bit of a break, so feel free to hit the pause button, take any free movement that might help you sustain the rest of these chaturangas. So now we are going to work on the full variation of chaturanga, how it is traditionally taught in yoga. So let's start from downward facing dog. You're going to inhale, lift the heels and shift forward to a high plank position. So this is your high push-up position, very strong. And then to move through a chaturanga, you'll shift forward slightly, come halfway down, elbows alongside the ribs, flip the top of the feet, upward facing dog. Couple breaths here. And then whenever you're ready, rock back, roll on the toes, downward facing dog. Let's do that again. So we'll inhale, shift forward, high plank position. Exhale, halfway down. Inhale, upward facing dog. And exhale, downward facing dog. I have yet another variation for you. So maybe you just want to work on some upper body strength. You're somewhere along the journey. You don't feel like doing a full chaturanga. Maybe you've done a bunch of them. Another version would be to come to your high plank pose and just come halfway down, push up, downward facing dog. So you don't have to, again, come into the back bend. Another version, high plank pose, come all the way down to the belly, untuck the feet, and from here you can come into any number one of the back bends, baby cobra, high cobra, maybe you want to come all the way to an upward facing dog, and then back to downward facing dog. Let's go ahead and drop down to the knees. Take those knees nice and wide, sink the hips back for a child's pose. And then we'll come up to rise. So I'm going to end the video there. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. And of course, this video is mostly intended for those who are taking lessons with me, and we're working on refining the full chaturanga, so the high to low plank, upward facing dog. You know that, or just know that the journey along the way can be a long one. Sometimes people move at a faster pace and they're really able to just nail it right away, but typically most people starting out in yoga, it takes quite a long time, sometimes even years, to build that upper body strength and that core and that whole body strength to be able to come down in a straight line with control and to be able to move slowly and mindfully into that back bend. So the upward facing dog, which is quite a bit deeper back bend than baby and high cobra. And then be able to, with control, come back to downward facing dog. So have fun, play with the variations. Feel free to take different portions of these variations and maybe make your own, and we'll revisit together. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.